welcome to the Flesh Bread series with Bishop Bernard Warui. And I'm glad that you would tune in and listen to this enriching and uplifting broadcast. Today I would like to talk about forgiveness. You know, one time Jesus Christ in Matthew 18 was going together with his disciples, and Peter came to him and asked him, how many times should I forgive in a day? Is it 7 times? And Jesus surprised him because he told him it's not even 7 times, it's 70 times 7, which is really an exaggeration to show how important it was and that forgiveness has no limitation. The Bible, especially in the New Testament, has in a very broad way shown that forgiveness is one of the key tenets of fellowship. It's one of the key things that enable human beings to be able to continue together in unity, human beings to be able to exist, and it is a demand on every believer. But I want to believe that if there is an area where brethren are living in disobedience of God's commandments, in disobedience of what God requires of them, it is in the area of forgiveness. It is in the area of forgiveness. And I believe that is why the Bible tells us that we must forgive, not only forgive, but really forgive from the heart. That is what the Bible says, that we have to forgive from the heart. When Jesus Christ was teaching about the prayer, what did he say? That if we do not forgive those who offend us, then our Father in heaven is not going to forgive us. That has always surprised me. That how could my being forgiven be premised on my ability to forgive and to let go people that have offended me? And I must say that forgiveness is not what we say with the mouth. It is the condition of the heart. And that is why the Bible says we must forgive from the heart. And it is important for us as brethren to realize that we need to forgive to be able to continue with the journey. But I love what Nelson Mandela said, that refusing to forgive is like taking poison and expecting the person that you are refusing to forgive to die. Who will die? It is you who have taken the poison. And therefore forgiveness is a medicine for self. Forgiveness is a remedy for self. Forgiveness is therapeutic to self. Forgiveness is a setting free of a captive who is bound, just to realize that the captive was you. And forgiveness does a number of things. Number one is that forgiveness is obedience to God. That when we are forgiving, we are living a life of obedience to God, and therefore we are qualifying ourselves for all the promises that have been given to us if we forgive or if we obey God. If you fail to forgive, then you are living in disobedience. And you know, the other term for disobedience is rebellion. So today I want to urge you, I want to beseech you, if there is someone who have offended you and they have done such a difficult, such a hurting thing to you, forgive them, not because it is easy to do so, but because you are desirous of obeying God. Number two, we don't forgive because we are strong men and strong women. We don't forgive because of so many other reasons, but one of the key reasons is that we are beloved, faithful imitators of our Father. That our Father forgave. And because our Father forgave, and I believe that is why the Bible says that as we have been forgiven, so we should also forgive. We are giving what we have already received. We are imitating our Father in heaven. He forgave us unconditionally. He did not require anything from us. Actually, the forgiveness that we receive from God sometimes does not even require a change of behavior. You know, there are times when we feel like we want to forgive conditionally. I will forgive him as long as he commits to change his behavior. Or I'm not going to forgive him because he keeps repeating the same thing that he did. God forgave you unconditionally. And one of the most sweetest assurance that I have, and I know you have this day, is that it doesn't matter whether you have repeated a sin that you did yesterday, you are banking on God's forgiveness of the sin that you have committed. And therefore God is forgiving you unconditionally. God is not counting on you to not repeat the same thing again, because if God was to say, I will not forgive you because yesterday you did the same thing, then some of us would remain unforgiven. And therefore, I want to urge you, forgive not because the person has changed their behavior, but because you are an imitator of your Father. The other thing that forgiveness does is that it frees you from the bitterness and the hurting that comes with the offense that has been committed by the perpetrator. That many times when we don't forgive, what we do is that we pile up for ourselves bitterness and pain and hurting in our hearts. But the journey of healing from offenses that have been committed against us begins when we forgive. That forgiveness is not only for the person that we are forgiving, but rather it is medicine for the wounds that have been inflicted by the people who have offended us. And therefore, forgiveness is medicine for you. That if you don't forgive, you continue hurting, you continue feeling bitter about that person. Every time you see them, it is not them who get hurt, it is you who gets hurt. It is you who find yourself in an awkward position. When you find them in a group and you have not forgiven them, it is you who find it hard to participate in the group's activities. It is you who feel that there is tension in the environment. When you meet them on the road, they are smiling, they are happy. It is you who feels gloomy, who feels grumpy, So forgiveness is a medicine for you. And therefore forgive for you. Forgive that the bitterness may leave. Forgive that the hurting may stop. Forgive that the wound may start healing. The scar may remain. You'll always remember. But you will be able to heal from the pain that you have. The other beautiful thing about forgiveness is that it restores relationships. It restores relationships. And relationships are sweet. Relationships is what we were created for. Otherwise, you would have been created and placed in your own planet. We are here for relationships. And when you forgive, the relationship gets restored. When you refuse to forgive, the relationship is destroyed. It doesn't matter what someone has done. There is always a beauty when relationships have been restored. And my desire for you today is that you allow God to help you to forgive, that you may be able to restore relationships that have been destroyed, relationships that have been broken. Of course, relationships may be restored, but we can approach them with a bit of, being careful, because we don't want to continue hurting ourselves again. We don't want to set ourselves for the pain that we may have been through. But when you forgive, relationships are restored. And sometimes there are relationships that are close. Think of a place where you've refused to forgive a brother whom you are born together, a sister whom you are born together, a father, a mother, a husband, a wife. These are people who are very close to you. People like, you're related by blood. It's your mother. You can never run away from them. How beautiful it is when the relationship between you and your mom is restored. The relationship between you and your father is restored. Please, I pray that God will help you to forgive. God will help you to forgive. And when you win the battle of forgiveness, you qualify as a soldier to the next rank, and you're able to wage war in higher battles. But when you lose the battle of forgiveness, it becomes very difficult to even wage war in other battles. Even ministry becomes difficult because you have refused to forgive. You find that even preaching is hard because there's bitterness in your heart, there's pain. And I want to say that forgiveness is not forgetfulness. When you forgive, it does not mean that you must forget. Remembering is okay. I have a scar on my hand. It is healed, but the scar remains and reminds me that one day I cut myself with a panga. The scar of the wounds that have been inflicted by people may remain, but they are not painful. How you know whether the wound has healed? It does not prevent you from doing the things that you need to do. If I hit this scar, it is not painful, but it reminds me I cut myself with a panga. You might never forget the things that people have done to you. You might never forget the pain that they caused you, but you don't remember those things with bitterness and pain and hurting. Those things do not prevent you from doing the work of the ministry that God has called you to do. So the scar will be there as a reminder. And therefore what I would like to say is that you might never forget. And don't be lied to, that if you have not forgotten, you have not forgiven. No, forgiving and forgetting are two totally different things. You can forgive purely from the heart. You don't carry that person in your heart. You don't consider them an offender, but the scar is still there. You remember they offended you. Sometimes you may even choose that I have forgiven you, but I'll keep my distance because I don't want to hurt myself again. That's okay. But deep within your heart, you know you have freed them. They no longer reside in the compartment of offenders in your heart. You have set them free, but because you want to be careful with your heart, you are keeping your distance. God bless you as you forgive. And thank you for listening to this Fresh Bread series. Next video will be up in a few days. God bless you and have a great day ahead.